Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session on boundary management in relationships. Today, we are going to explore the importance of setting and respecting boundaries in relationships. Boundaries play a crucial role in maintaining healthy connections with others and fostering mutual respect. Let's start by briefly discussing why boundaries are essential in relationships. So, if we have to give a metaphor for boundaries, we can say that boundaries are like invisible lines that define where one person ends and another person begins in any relationship, be it romantic relationship, friendships, family relationships, any. They're crucial because they help us establish our own identity, maintain our emotional and physical well-being, and foster healthy connections with others. Without clear boundaries, relationships can become strained, leading to misunderstandings, conflicts, and even resentment. So, when we have well defined boundaries, we feel more secure and confident in ourselves and our relationships. We are able to communicate our needs and preferences effectively, and we are better equipped to handle conflicts in a constructive manner. Before we actually get into uh, the session, we will look at the agenda. We will we'll try to answer certain questions. So you can pause this video and try to answer the questions that's given here. So the first question is, what does the term boundary mean to you in the context of relationships? Second, have you ever experienced a situation where boundaries played a significant role in a relationship, either positively or negatively? Third, how comfortable are you with setting and communicating your boundaries in different types of relationships, be it romantic, family, friendships, or professional relationships? Fourth, what challenges do you anticipate in setting and respecting boundaries in your relationships? So try to answer these questions. So once you answer these questions, you can move to the next slide. So at the agenda for today's session, first we will define relationship boundaries. We will get a better clarity on what boundaries mean in any relationships. Next, we will learn different types of relationship boundaries like physical boundaries, material boundaries, emotional boundaries, and then there are many more. Third, we will learn the importance of communication in boundaries. Fourth, we'll also discuss on establishing mutual boundaries from both the parties. And fifth, we will learn how to respect individual autonomy as well. Okay. So if we have to define what boundary is, relationship boundaries or boundaries are the guidelines we set for ourselves and others in our interactions. They determine what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior in any relationship. And these boundaries can cover various aspects of our lives, including personal space, privacy, emotional support, and communication preferences. For example, expressing to your friend that you're not comfortable discussing certain topics, such as your past relationships or family issues, or setting a boundary with your roommate that they need to ask for permission before borrowing your clothes or using your personal belongings. Yeah. Next, we will see um, why is boundaries so important in our life. So boundaries are essential, or boundaries are important because they help maintain a sense of self within a relationship, promote respect and understanding between individuals, and prevent overstepping or crossing of limits. They also enable healthy communication and foster trust between partners. When we establish clear boundaries, We create a framework for healthy interactions and mutual respect. This leads to stronger, more fulfilling relationships where both parties feel valued and understood. Now, let's explore the different types of boundaries that exist in relationships. First, we have physical boundaries. These involve personal space, touch, and privacy. For example, politely declining a hug from a colleague when you're not comfortable with physical contact in the workplace, or politely declining to shake hands with a stranger when you're not comfortable. Next, we have emotional boundaries. So these pertain to sharing feelings, empathy, and support. For example, supporting a friend through a tough time without taking on their emotions as your own, maintaining a healthy separation. Or when your friend share or overshare their emotional problems with you, and then if you're not in the right space to listen to your friend, you can always decline. Third is intellectual boundaries. So these involve respecting opinions, ideas, and thoughts. For example, respecting your partner's expertise in a certain area and refraining from constantly challenging their knowledge or emotions, or respecting your partners or friends' different political views and engaging in constructive discussions without belittling or dismissing their opinions. Next, we have material boundaries. They revolve around sharing resources and possessions. For example, discussing with your sibling the importance of asking before borrowing each other's belongings to avoid conflicts over shared possessions. Another example can be setting a boundary with your roommate that they need to ask for permission before borrowing maybe your clothes or water bottle or using your personal belongings. Fifth, we have time boundaries. These are about balancing time between self and others and setting limits. For example, setting aside specific days or times for family gatherings to ensure that everyone has time for their individual commitments and responsibilities. Another example can be letting your family know that you need to leave by a certain time to prioritize other commitments, such as work or personal hobbies. So again, each type of boundary serves a unique purpose in maintaining healthy relationships and promoting mutual respect and understanding. So that's about different types of boundaries. I hope it's clear. Next, we have communication of boundaries, or the importance of communication in setting boundaries. So again, as you all know, communication is key when it comes to setting and maintaining boundaries in relationships. And there are some strategies for effective communication. So first one can be using I statements, as in expressing your feelings and needs without blaming or accusing the other person. For example, you can say, I feel overwhelmed when you constantly criticize my decisions. Can you discuss, or can we discuss things calmly without judgment? So that can be one example for using I statements. Next, we have something called practicing active listening. As you must be knowing, there is a difference between hearing and listening. So listening is basically active and hearing is passive. So here what you do is you pay attention to your partner's boundaries or your friend's boundaries and validate their feelings. For example, your partner expresses discomfort with a certain activity, or your friend expresses a discomfort with certain activity. You respond, or you can respond, I hear that you are uncomfortable with that, or I understand that you're uncomfortable with that. Can you tell me more about why? So that you also get to know what's the reason behind them feeling uncomfortable. Next, we have something called non-verbal cues. So here you have to be mindful of body language and other non-verbal signals while communicating boundaries. For example, physically stepping back or crossing your arms when someone invades your personal space to communicate discomfort. As in, sometimes if you're uncomfortable or if you're not in the space to verbally say that whatever makes you uncomfortable, you can always uh, express it with non-verbal cues. Next, we have something called handling disagreements. So here, whenever you have some kind of disagreements, you can approach these disagreements or conflicts regarding boundaries with empathy and respect. For example, during a disagreement about boundaries, using phrases like, I understand your perspective, but I need to prioritize my well-being in this situation. So here what you do is, you prioritize your own well-being than the other person. So that doesn't mean that you're belittling their perspective or their decisions. What you do is you protect your well-being first, and then their perspective comes into place. So that's about the importance of communication in boundaries. Next, we will learn how to establish mutual boundaries in relationships or friendships or professional relationships. So mutual agreements or mutual boundaries are agreements that both the parties or both partners or both friends in a relationship or friendship agree to abide by. Sorry. The mutual boundaries promote understanding, respect, and harmony. For example, in a romantic relationship, both partners might agree to maintain open communication and honesty as mutual boundaries. This ensure trust and transparency between them. Negotiation and compromise are essential when establishing mutual boundaries. It's important to consider each other's needs and find common ground to establish that both parties feel respected and valued. For example, in a friendship, agreeing not to share personal details about each other with their with other friends without their consent, or maybe other times in a friendship, setting a mutual boundary to not discuss each other's romantic relationships unless they're invited to do so. Or among roommates, agreeing on a cleaning schedule and division of household chores to ensure fairness and avoid conflicts. You can set or you can set aside some time, as in one day one of the roommates will clean the room, the other day then another one. And or if you're living in an apartment, what you can do is, if there is cooking involved, you can discuss on one day or one time of the day. Maybe breakfast can be cooked by one person and dinner can be cooked by another person. So here what you do is you establish mutual agreements. Or maybe in terms of parent-child relationship, establishing boundaries around privacy, such as knocking before entering your room or respecting their personal belongings. Among your classmates, agreeing not to discuss academic related matters during lunch breaks to create a space for relaxation and personal conversation. So that's about establishing mutual boundaries or agreements. Lastly, we'll talk about respecting individual autonomy within relationships. So individual autonomy refers to the right of each person to make their own decisions and pursue their own goals and desires within a relationship. For example, in a friendship, each friend should have the freedom to spend time with other people and pursue personal interests without feeling guilty or restricted. So here it's crucial to avoid codependent behaviors where one person's needs and desires overshadow the others. Instead, strive for a healthy balance of closeness and independence. For example, in a romantic relationship, supporting your partner's decision to pursue their own hobbies and interests, even if they don't align with your own. Maybe another example can be allowing your friend the freedom to spend time with other friends or attend social events or any other programs without feeling jealous or possessive. Or in terms of family relationships, respecting your siblings' decision to pursue a different career path or life goals, even if it differs from what you expected for them. Or in terms of college or in academics, giving your classmates space to work independently on projects without micromanaging or constantly checking in on their progress. This is applicable during group project work as such. So that's about respecting other person's autonomy, or respecting another person's freedom to set boundaries. Okay, so now we will also discuss the guidelines for boundary management in relationships. So these are some guidelines that you'll have to keep in the back of your head every time you have social interactions or every time you be with your closed ones. So first thing is know yourself. So here you have to take the time to understand your own needs, values, and limits before communicating them to others. So self-awareness is a key to setting effective boundaries. So if you're not clear about what you really want, or if you're not clear about your desires, or your needs, or your limits, then there is no use communicating that to another person, right? So take your own time, especially when you're in a dilemma regarding any relationship or friendships. Take some time for yourself. Ask yourself difficult questions. So only after you get a proper answer to that, you can communicate that to your friend or your partner or your colleague or your classmates. Next guideline is communicate clearly. So here it's very important for you to use I statements, as we already discussed, to express your feelings and needs assertively without blaming or accusing others. So here you'll have to be direct and specific when communicating your boundaries. Next guideline is listen actively. We have already discussed this. So here you'll have to practice active listening to understand and respect the boundaries of others. Validate another person's feelings and show empathy even if you don't agree with their boundaries. Next guideline is be flexible. So here you'll have to recognize that boundaries may need to be adjusted over time as relationships evolve. Be open to compromises when establishing mutual boundaries. So as we already discussed, while establishing mutual agreements or mutual boundaries, it's very important for you to compromise a bit. Not just for you, even for other person to compromise a bit, because as you all know, nobody is perfect, right? Yeah. Next guideline is respecting others' boundaries. So just as you expect others to respect your boundaries, make sure to respect their boundaries. Avoid pressuring or guilting others into violating the boundaries. So for example, even if you violate their boundaries, so instead of asking them an apology, there is a chance that you might gaslight them. As in, you might manipulate certain things. As in, you might say that, okay, it's because you were in a bad mood. That's the reason you felt bad, or something like that. To make sure that even if you violate other person's boundaries, ask for an apology and make sure that you don't repeat it. Next guideline is to set limits. So don't be afraid to say no when something doesn't align with your boundaries. And it's okay to prioritize your well-being and assert your needs first, right? Yeah. So that's about setting boundaries. Next, we have practicing self-care. So here it's very important for you to take care of yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally. And again, setting and maintaining boundaries can be tiring and draining. So make sure to prioritize self-care to avoid burnout. So here self-care can be anything. It can be going for a walk, or maybe washing dishes, or painting, writing, or involving in skincare, or working out. Self-care can be anything. It's subjective. As in self-care is anything, as in make sure that it's healthy or adaptive Smoking is not a self-care. So make sure that you are able to differentiate or distinguish between what is healthy and what is unhealthy. Next guideline is seeking support. So if you're struggling to establish or maintain boundaries in a relationship or friendships, don't hesitate to seek support from friends, family, or even your counselor or therapist. And again, you're not alone, and there are resources available to help. So if you sometimes if you feel that it's too draining, or it's too much for me to handle certain relationships or friendships, it's always better to seek or reach out for help. Next guideline is reflect regularly. So we always speak about reflecting or reflection. So again, in terms of boundaries in relationships as well, reflection is very much important. So make sure that you reflect regularly. So what you have to do is regularly reflect on your boundaries and how they're working for you. Ask yourself, are my boundaries being respected? Or uh, do the boundaries need adjustment? Or again, ask yourself, is it working? This boundary is working or not? Or does my partner or friend respect my boundaries? And if not, it's very important for you to communicate that to your friend or partner. And again, regular self-reflection can help you maintain healthy boundaries in all your relationships. The last guideline is practicing patience. So as cliche as it sounds, patience is very much important. Changing established patterns of behavior takes time and effort, right? So be patient with yourself and others as you navigate boundary setting in your relationships. And again, by following these guidelines, there are many more, but then by following these 10 guidelines, you can cultivate healthier, more fulfilling relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. So that's about today's session. So if we have to recap, today we have explored the significance of boundary management in relationships. We defined relationship boundaries, discussed the different types and learned how to effectively communicate and establish them. We also emphasized the importance of mutual understanding, and respecting individual autonomy. And again, remember students to set healthy boundaries. And again, remember, setting and respecting boundaries is essential for building. I'm so sorry. Remember, setting and respecting boundaries is essential for building healthy, fulfilling connections with others. And again, setting healthy boundaries is an act of self-love and respect, essential for nurturing, fulfilling relationships. You're setting boundaries not just for others, but also for yourself. So that's about it. Thank you and have a great day.